In this lesson, we will look at the role of direct objects and direct object pronouns, briefly in English to review, and then in Italian. So to begin, here's a simple sentence in English. She gives a present to Alice. Let's look at the basic sentence structure and how the role of each element of the sentence. We have our subject, she, our verb, our action, gives, our article introducing our direct object, a, present is our direct object, and to, our preposition, Alice, our indirect object. So how do you tell the difference between a direct and indirect object? A direct object is the direct recipient of the verb, which in this case is gives, and the indirect object is affected by the verb but indirectly. So you can usually ask the question who or what in association with a verb to discover what the direct object is. So if you say she gives what does she give, or who does she give, that is how you discover your direct object. So let's ask ourselves, what does she give? She gives a present. Present is our direct object. And Alice is still affected by that action of giving, but it's less direct. We're not giving Alice, we're giving a present. Italian is very similarly structured. We can see the same sentence. We have our soggetto, lei. Our verb in the infinitive is dare. In this, the conjugated form is da, verbo da, articolo un, complemento oggetto, regalo, that's our direct object, preposizione ad, complemento oggetto indiretto, alice. In Italian, the questions you would ask yourself is che cosa dà un regalo, or in the case of direct object being a person, chi, who, chi. So let's look at a few more examples of direct objects. Noi compriamo pane. We buy bread. So what do we buy? Bread. Or in Italian, che compriamo, che cosa compriamo? Pane. And if we were to have another sentence right after it, for example, noi compriamo pane, dopo lo mangiamo, we could say noi compriamo pane, dopo mangiamo pane, but it would sound pretty repetitive. So then we have our direct object pronouns, which take the place of the direct object when you're referring back to a direct object, so you don't have to repeat it. In English, we also use this. We buy bread, later we eat it. So your direct object pronoun here would be it. Notice that lo refers to pane, and lo is masculine. You'll probably recognize as the masculine form. Il pane, pane is masculine. Tu leggi una rivista. You read a magazine. So if we ask ourselves, che leggi, or what do you read, we have our answer, a magazine. There's our direct object. Quando finisci la posi, when you're done, you put it down. So again, we have our direct object pronoun. It's referring back to that direct object, but without having to repeat it. So notice that here, in English, both times we used the direct object pronoun it, but in Italian we have this difference of gender. So lo is describing il pane, la is describing la rivista, a feminine object. Another example, io cerco Roberta. So Roberta is a female, so when we use the direct object pronoun to replace that direct object, we have to use the feminine form, la trovo. I'm looking for Roberta. I find her. In English, we do have the difference when referring to people. If we were saying Roberto, in Italian it would be lo, and in English it would be him. So we do have that gender difference, of course, with people and direct object pronouns in both English and in Italian. Another example, vi invitano sempre, ma non mi invitano mai. In this case, vi is our closest translation is you guys. It's the plural you. And then here we have another example, mi invitano mai. Notice this contracted form. So when you're referring to yourself, you is in the direct object pronoun, it would be me. But here we have me in front of a verb beginning with a vowel, which creates the contracted form. And we'll see a list of when that could happen on the next screen. So again, ask yourself, look at the verb and ask who or what. So these are examples with who. Io cerco Roberto. Chi cerco? I am looking for Roberto. So we look at our verb looking. Who are we looking for? And they always invite you guys. Who do they invite? We ask the question who in association with the verb, and that's how we arrive at our direct object pronoun, if for some reason we need to know what the direct object is of a sentence. So here's our chart in Italian of direct object pronouns. Mi, ti, and then we have the masculine singular lo, feminine singular la, and then la with a capital, which refers to the plural, the formal you. And then we have chi for we, vi for voi, you guys, plural you, informal. And then we have li, the plural masculine, lei, plural feminine. Li and lei are both plural, and la, the formal you, just has one form in the singular for both male and female, but in the plural it does separate. And then we have our apostrophed contracted forms in the singular. Notice they don't exist in the plural. Those are only used in front of verbs beginning with vowels or H. Here we have an example. Alice l'apre. So imagine we're still talking about the regalo, the present, which is masculine, lo. So we would say Alice lo apre, but because apre begins with the vowel, we contract, the O drops off, and we have our apostrophed form. Notice also the placement of the direct object pronoun in Italian. It comes before the verb. So if we were to look back at our examples, in English, we eat it. You see it comes after the verb. You set it down. I find her. But as you'll see in Italian, lo mangiamo, la posi, la trovo. That placement of the direct object pronoun always comes before the verb in Italian. So that's another small detail to remember. And just to review, lei dà un regalo ad Alice. Lei lo dà ad Alice. This would be another way to say the same sentence, but you are placing your direct object with a direct object pronoun. And you just need to remember that the pronouns do have gender if you're talking about an object or a person other than yourself or we or you guys. I hope this presentation has been helpful. Grazie e arrivederci.